I just arrived in Sao Paulo for RetroCon, which is a retro gaming convention, as you could probably guess by the name. And I was very surprised to find this under my door because nobody knows I'm here. What is this?
Dear Izzy, my name is Tech Dweeb and I'm your biggest fan. I love the way that you talk about retro games and tech, and your Brazilian accent and glasses. I don't mean that your glasses are Brazilian. Well, maybe they are, but that's not why I said that. Anyways, I also like to make videos about retro games, and I would love to be a guest on your channel someday. Please consider your biggest fan, Tech Dweeb.
How nice. Well, I love Tech Dweeb's content, so it makes a lot of sense for me to get right on it. Let's write this guy back. Wait a second here. Okay.
Much later.
Oh my god. Tech Dweeb, sure, why don't you tell me about an NES game that you've been playing? Izzy. Wow, that's convenient. When I was a little dweeb, I was nuts about Mad Magazine. And my favorite part of Mad Magazine was Spy vs. Spy comics. And then when I got Spy vs. Spy for the NES, I was nuts about that. And every time a friend or a neighborhood kid would come over, you know little Tech Dweeb would be shoving an NES controller in their hands so that he could kick their butt at Spy vs. Spy. So the game is split screen, obviously. You control one of the characters, top or bottom, and your goal is to run around the levels and find all the things, and then escape the level with the things. The things that you need to find are a key, a bag of money, a passport, and a plane ticket. And you need to find the briefcase so you can carry them all. Easy enough, right? Well, no, because the obstacle is the other player. They're trying to do the same thing. So you can pull up your map at any time and it shows you where the things are in the map. But it's not so straightforward because both players can set traps. You can place buckets of electrocuted water above the doors, or time bombs in the room, or you can plant bombs or springs on the furniture so they trigger when anyone tries to use them. So the gameplay loop is kind of like you're gathering items and hoarding them in a place and protecting them with traps so that you can go out and find the rest of the stuff. You can also get into fist fights when you're in the same room, and you can find weapons like the knife to give you an edge, and you can find these pliers that let you defuse traps. You need to try to remember the layout of the level, try to remember which item you saw where, and try to remember where you set your traps so that you don't end up getting killed by your own traps. And when you finally get all this stuff packed away in the briefcase and you're making that mad dash for the exit, I swear, every time, even still for me today as a 40-year-old retro gamer, my heart is pounding when the end is in sight. And then just like back in the day, that's usually when the enemy spy takes me out at the last second and then steals all the glory and gets away. And then I throw my controller across the room and swear that I'll never play this game again. That's the good stuff right there.
I have a favorite NES hidden gem too, Fire and Ice, also known as Solomon's Key 2, which is actually a prequel to Solomon's Key. It takes place before the events of that game. In Fire and Ice, you play the role of Dana, a wizard's apprentice who has to save his homeland from fire monsters conjured by a villain by the name of, what is this guy's name again? Druidle. That's a weird name. Look at the little guys, look at these little guys. They're kind of cute. You gotta kill them though. You gotta kill them. They're Bruni or shit. Fire and Ice plays a little bit like a block pushing game like Sokoban. Maybe you know that one. Except in this one, you actually get to create some blocks as well. Dana can create ice or melt ice, and that's how you reach certain areas. You create blocks to push against enemies. You can't jump, and you can only create blocks diagonally and down from you. So it's kind of tricky. There's a lot of content to explore in Fire and Ice, and in something that is a really unusual decision, although I wish more games did something like this, it's not a linear game. You can explore any level of any of the 10 worlds, and once you beat all of them, there's a boss battle, like really challenging final stage in each of the worlds. Once you do all of that, the game presents you with 50 additional levels. There's even a stage editor. Unfortunately, only the Japanese version would allow you to save the levels you create, so it's the area of the game that I explored the least. Honestly, this is a phenomenal game. One of those like quick pick up and play type games. The levels themselves are not super long, although it might take a while to figure out what you're supposed to do. And in something that is a little unusual for most video games, although not exactly for these puzzle type games, you can screw yourself out of actually defeating the level. So there is an option to restart from the beginning. It takes doing that a couple of times to figure out what to do in each stage. Fire and Ice unfortunately did not get the attention I believe it deserved, and that's in part because it was released a little too late in the NES's life cycle. When Fire and Ice came out, the SNES was already out, so most of the developers and the consumers had moved on to Nintendo's latest and greatest. For that reason, this game is woefully underappreciated, and I think it's a real shame. They were working with an understanding of how the system was supposed to perform, so the game is really full of life. It's very vibrant. Dana, the main character, such a simple design. He's really charming. I love it. The color palette in the game, the music, it's just such a phenomenal, such a wonderful experience. I cannot recommend Fire and Ice enough. It's a perfect game if you wanna, put your wits to the test, but it's also like a really great pick up and play sort of like, those games where you just have like 5 minutes to spare and then it just, I want something to kill 5 minutes. Fire and Ice, that's my go-to. I want to thank Tech Dweeb for helping me out making this channel. Go subscribe to the guy already if you don't, but I suspect that if you know my work, you probably already know his. And that's all the time I have for today. I'm Izzy and I'm done.